Hello there, and here we are again. We find ourselves in yet another lockdown in the UK. So I just wanted to start by saying I hope that you are all doing all right and trying to keep positive as we move forward into 2021. But I know it's difficult at these times to keep yourself motivated with your photography. And I wanted to make this video, put this video together to try and keep the inspiration up and get you feeling positive about your photography and not give up on it, basically, because it's so good for us. It's a creative endeavor that, if you're doing landscape photography, particularly gets us out and about, getting your mental health up, getting your physical health up. When we get stuck inside like this, it's easy to let that photography drift away. So there are things we can do. And this happened to me in the last couple of days where I felt just not sure about what I'm going to do, and a photography project has jumped into my mind. I went down the photography rabbit hole the other day looking at different bits of work from other photographers and then different bits of gear, and I have had a wave of inspiration. When that happens, I just try and ride that wave, and I've now got this project formed in my mind, and I've just filmed a piece to camera that is going to be the start of that project as I document it anyway. But you may not see that for maybe 3 to 4 years. It's a long game that I'm going to be playing on this one. But I'm excited about it. I definitely recommend trying to come up with a project. There'll be stuff on the Raw Room that might get you motivated as well, so check that out. So you may have seen some of this before, but I wanted to share some of the best moments from 2020, because it wasn't all bad. And if you're new to this channel, then this is a great place for you to start. But whoever you are out there, I would love it if you were to subscribe and then hit that notification bell to make sure that you're seeing the new videos when they come out. So let's start off by going way back to January 2020, where I met one of the finest landscape photographers to have ever existed. And he's an inspiring start to this video. I'm really excited by two things today, one of which is these new boots that I've got. They are Scarpa mountaineering boots, probably overkill for today where I'm not going to be doing any mountaineering whatsoever. The second is I am meeting up with Joe Cornish. Joe is one of Britain's finest ever landscape photographers. If you've not heard the name before, you've almost certainly seen his work in various publications and work he's done with the National Trust and many, many others. He's been an inspiration of mine for a very long time because he is very well known for shooting around the area that I grew up in. So his patch is now partly my patch as well. So I sort of feel very privileged that he's agreed to come and spend this day with me. So we are here hoping to capture a few nice images. The weather's not being too bad. It's nice and still, which is always good. You're not having to contend with the wind. So I think what I'll do is have a little scout around before he gets here. He knows this place much better than I do though, and then I'll go and find Joe. Yes, excited. Feeling very privileged, very happy today as well. So I would love it if you to come with me. Let's go. It doesn't look possible, does it?
It shouldn't. It shouldn't do. And you also, it's kind of terrifying because, you know, in theory, at any moment, you could fall.
What is the camera?
That's called it is an Alpha camera, as you can see it, but it's it was marketed originally as a Phase 1A camera. In fact, funnily enough, all of this stuff, including the shutter in the lens, is no longer needed or functional because they use the electronic shutter in the back. So that's a Phase 1 IQ4 150 back, which is just booting up now. It takes a little while. But it's a cumbersome but The image quality is amazing.
What benefits does the 150 megapixel have then? What's the advantage of that?
It's mainly that you can make bigger prints. I mean, let's be honest about it. That's the only real reason. For anybody who needs to make big prints and wants very fine detail in their pictures, then this type of camera is ideal. Yeah. But it's clearly, it's way more than most of us need most of the time. Yeah. But I mean, if you want to make a 2 meter wide print, they're absolutely fantastic.
What lens is that on there?
It's actually a 35 f4, which doesn't sound very fast, but it's quite fast for a medium format lens. And it's in a helical. It's actually the simplest way that I shoot with medium format. It's really a point and shoot.
It's quite small. It's
very small.
Smaller than I thought it would be.
Yeah. Whereas, for example, the Cambo is quite a bit bigger. So that's a full spec technical camera with, it's a Cambo. It's a Linhof Techno. I get a bit confused sometimes because I have a Cambo as well, but that has rise and fall on the back. It has rise on the front and swing and tilt and shift and so on, which is great for architecture and actually for a lot of landscape photography as well.
I think people particularly find difficult when you actually enter a landscape, even if it's something as stunning as this. How do you start bringing that down into the frame, into a composition? Do you have a process, or how do you work?
Relationships is the key idea, and I mean, I think that it's essentially how to describe the space in front of you and the forms in front of you in a way that's the most interesting. And sometimes it's about making them clear. That's then always nuanced by balance and proportion. So the proportion of things in space is very important to me. And in this kind of environment, it's also about the sky and how the sky works in relation to rocks. At the moment, without the sun, I can't get the lighting relationships right. It may work if the sun does pop out, which it could do, but essentially it's these wonderful linear diagonals that are moving across the frame, bottom left, top right, and then that's balanced by that great mass of rock top left. There are some issues that are tricky, like the lichens are very dominant in the foreground, but I think that I'll be able to deal with that a little bit by darkening them down a touch in post-production.
Okay.
I might even be able to filter it in camera a little bit, but more likely to need to focus or concentrate on the sky as far as filters are concerned.
And is having the light on the landscape, is that essential for you? Is there any time you would take an image that doesn't have it in flatter light? Or?
Oh, you bet. Absolutely. Yeah, often. In fact, I'd be quite happy with the foreground here to be soft light. In fact, I'm hoping it will be, but it would probably help to have some sunlight on the rock at the back, and that'll help to sort of balance and contrast with the cold blue light of a sky, blue light on the foreground lichens, which are very white, and because they're white, then it'll tend to show up as blue.
Yeah, sure.
With the blue sky.
You mentioned potentially dealing with the lichen in post. Do you do a lot of post-production? How much is that part of your process?
Yeah, it's an important part because I see post-production is exactly the same as making a print. What is making a print for me? Making a print in the darkroom, where you would have tried to control the light with dodging and burning. In essence, what I do in post-production is just dodging and burning. Yeah. For the most part. There are, but of course you have more control than just that. So fundamentally it's luminance, it's light and dark, but then there's also texture and contrast. Yeah. So areas that you want to emphasize, you're likely to make them a bit contrastier or a bit harder. Areas that you want to subdue, then you might soften them a little bit. Yeah. Darken, and you can use color in the same way. So as you know, increase of saturation draws attention, decrease of saturation takes tension away, or takes attention away. So it's that subtle combination of all of those different influences on the surfaces of the picture that essentially bring it to life. And I love that I think it's a really, really creative part of photography. Yeah, it's a big contrast to how I used to work. You know, when I was shooting film, didn't have that control to shooting color film, so there was a big emphasis on getting it right in camera.
Yeah.
That was good, but then, you know, the absence of control meant that really the final rendering of the picture is very arbitrary. Whereas now, the digital raw file is your starting point, and the completion of the creative process is through taking control of post-production. So yeah, take a look, and you can see the bottom right-hand corner is quite bright, but you know, given that's, well, just a camera image with, so yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, happy. I think it's got potential.
So today, I'm on the hunt for Medusa. Now, this is not Medusa, she is a oak, possibly over 250 years old, with a girth of over 6 meters, so it could be very exciting if I can find it. It's not been recorded, or there's no recording view of it since 2017, so I'm really hoping it's still alive, because there was some suggestion that it's going to be knocked over by some of the surrounding coniferous trees, so it's a bit of a mission. It's exciting, but I think it's going to be really impressive if I can find it. Let's go. One of the reasons sightings of this tree are not recorded, and there's barely any photographs of it, is it's so isolated. Getting to it requires going up hills, through woodland, and across this windy moor. Now, I grew up in an environment like this, and I absolutely love it, but you do have a huge sense of isolation up here. I mean, there's literally nobody else around. It's beautiful and sunny today, which takes the edge off it, but when these conditions are overcast or cloudy, this feels like a very lonely place. So like any good adventure story, I have come to a fork in the road. I'm not quite sure what to do, because if we look over my shoulder here, there are signs of logging. I think that the tree we're looking for is possibly one of those two there. They won't have cut it down because it's protected, but it may not be in a wood anymore. It may just be isolated, which I guess doesn't bode well for the tree. It's so old, being so exposed. I can either go down this path, kind of into the woods, or I can kind of follow the ridge around the top and then cut down. So I'm not quite sure what to do, because I'm not entirely sure where the tree is. There is GPS coordinates, but when I look towards where the GPS is taking me, there are no trees. So I think I'll probably take the high ground so I can look down and try and find it. At least I hope that's going to be the right thing to do. It's not easy knowing what the right thing to do is at the moment, is it? Not at all. This is a long walk, and on these moors it never really feels like you're going anywhere. You do kind of get into a bit of a trance-like state though. The sound of your breath, the sound of your feet marching along, and it actually becomes quite nice, and it just, I don't know, with the increased sort of heart rate and exercise, it gets the brain just firing on all cylinders, and I always seem to come up with some creative idea when I'm doing this kind of thing, particularly if I'm on my own and there's that little niggling feeling of loneliness. Oh, it's hot as well. Really hot. Whew. Yes. I'm now faced with a bit of temptation, because I'm not totally confident at all I'm going to find this tree. But I've just seen some cotton grass just ahead of me here, and it looks absolutely beautiful. And I know at sunset, when that warm golden light hits that white cotton, it's going to be stunning. Very tempted to stay and try and make something of that, but I think what I might do is grab a handheld shot
and then just press on. Right, I've arrived in the woods to where Woodland Trust GPS coordinates have taken me, and I cannot see it. I think it's up that bank somewhere there. If we walk along for a minute, there's just no way up, and that wood is so thick. I'm just not going to be able to move through that in time because the sun's setting and I'm running out of time. It's going to take me absolutely ages to get through that. Oh, that's so disappointing. Although, I do have one more spin of the dice. One more spin of the dice. I can't believe this. I couldn't even find it on the drone. I did just ask a girl riding past on a horse, though, if she'd heard of it. And she said she might have done, and it might be a bit further along. It's nowhere near where the GPS coordinates say, though. Oh, come on. I don't have long left, maybe about half an hour. Oh, this has to work, or this video doesn't work. I'm getting much deeper into the woods now. This is kind of looking a bit more likely. The light, just look at the light up there. That's looking absolutely incredible. It's all thick coniferous though. I can hear a cuckoo. I'm just going to keep on looking. Don't know why I'm whispering. This must be it. There's no really any other path up anywhere. Right, let's give it a go. It's pretty steep. This bag wants to pull me back down the hill as well. Man, that's not it, I don't think, but that is seriously impressive. Let's go through here and up. Oh, it's so steep. Oh my god. Oh, what's that? The wood is so thick. So thick. And I'm on falls now. Whoa. Help me, tree. Oh. Where is it? That light's amazing. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I think I've found it. I think I've found it. And it's one of the most magnificent trees I've ever seen. Oh my god. And that is just staggeringly beautiful. Oh my god. Yes. I'm gonna have to switch off. Getting emotional. So the light is just absolutely beautiful now. This tree, it's just the most astonishing tree I've ever seen by some distance. I just don't have the superlatives for it. You can see exactly why it's called Medusa. That flowing hair made up by the branches there, some of which you can see have kind of died off, but they're still attached. The tree is still very much alive and it's just hewn into that rock. I mean, it is literally growing out of that rock. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. It's been a challenge to get here, but rich reward. And the fact that I've got completely blue skies above me is pretty much working for me because the light coming through the trees in front of me here, behind you, catching the leaves. And it's just looking absolutely fantastic. It may cause some difficulty with contrast, but if I can get the exposure right, I should be able to bump the shadows and bring the highlights just to make it just into something really, really special. Composition-wise, I don't have many options because I'm on this really, really steep bank. I want to get that rock in there. I want to get the main trunk coming out of the rock and then some of the leaves making up the rest of the composition, as you can see here. If I move around a bit, it's not going to work. These branches, I don't particularly want them in there because they're dead. And I want to show this tree being fully alive. It's just amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Right, I've already taken a few because I'm just going to keep on firing to get the very best of the light. I'm really close to sunset now. You can see the warm light coming through. I may lose that at some point because the trees are really thick. I've probably got about 5 more minutes. I mean, I've got light coming through in all different places, hitting bits of that branch. Oh, I've got the camera up as high as it'll go because the tree is actually probably a couple of meters above me. Could get a little bit closer, could go a bit wider. Might try that in a minute. But I also want to try something a little bit closer in as well. But the light's just getting better all the time. Right, I think I'm going to move the tripod and try and do something a little bit more intimate because the way that rock or the trunk of that tree is coming out of that rock is just stunning, and I think that'll make a really nice fine art type imagery. Let's do that, but take a look at this first. I absolutely love this place, and it's happened really quickly that I've found something that's really piqued my interest. It's at times like this when I just feel so fortunate. It's quiet, there's barely anybody around, and I'm faced with this fantastic scene in front of me as the sun is beating down. It feels good to be out. I'm sat in the undergrowth here. I've got the 400mm lens on. I'm doing some wildlife photography. I say wildlife, it's of horses, but I think they are wild on this land, as far as horses can be wild here in the UK, but the scene in front of me is just absolutely beautiful. I was initially drawn to this fantastic tree that has just this beautiful shape with those beautiful spring green leaves on, and as the sun catches it, it just looks fantastic. But then when I looked closer, I saw a couple of horses nestling underneath, as you can see here. I would love to capture it. The horses are moving about a little bit, as you can see, but I really want one of them to move away. There's one that I think, the one to the right, which I think is just a little bit prettier. Now, what's going to make this work is it's got the tree branch and the top of the bottom part of the leaves framing that horse so beautifully. But then the horse is isolated from the background because off in a distance there are some trees just catching that sun, and they're much brighter than the horse. So it's almost like it's got a nice brighter highlighted background, which is just setting off the shape of that horse against that background. It just looks fantastic. I mean, I'm getting a few little specks of light coming on through the leaves onto the tree trunk as well. And overall, it's just fantastic. So let's see if I can capture something. So nice. Settings wise, I've got the camera on the tripod because the horses are fairly stationary, so I've had the time to set that up. I'm at 1/640th of a second. I was hand holding initially, so I just left it at that. But with f5.6, which is the biggest the aperture can go on this lens, and ISO 640, it's given me pretty much the perfect exposure. I've got down low because I want to be able to shoot through all of this grassland, and that's going to form the foreground of my image nice and blurred and just make it look absolutely fantastic. Such a nice moment. There's a few flies blasting around. I'm starting to get a little bit of cloud come over now, so it's darkening off a little bit, and that might work for me actually as the sun moves across through the scene. Let's have a look. Yeah, I mean, it still looks really, really nice there. Yes. I think that other one on the left is now starting to move away. Oh, that other one just looks so good on the right-hand side there, framed by that tree. I just need it to look up just for a moment. Just for a moment to get this just right. And he's looking up. I'm focused in on the right spot. 2-second timer, come on. Let's have a look again. That is so beautiful. What a fantastic moment that is. It's emotional sometimes, at times like this, and with the current state of things where I've been stuck inside, not being able to come out for quite a while, this feels, I don't know, it just feels right. It feels, I don't want to say reward, but it certainly does feel rewarding, and I feel a little bit lucky as well. These absolutely stunning clouds behind me. They're just rising up into the sky and then catching the light coming in from the side. They look very much like they could turn into storm clouds, which is not surprising because it's been a very sweaty day. The XT4 is just pretty much in all areas an overall upgrade to the XT3. IBIS particularly. This shot here was taken at 1/13 of a second. And for me, as a landscape photographer, that's actually really important, because for landscape images, you want them generally to be as clean as possible, keeping that ISO and therefore that noise as low as possible. Where normally with a handheld shot, I would bump the shutter speed up to make sure that the image is sharp and steady. That means I've got to boost the ISO. But with that IBIS, it actually makes handheld landscape photography much more accessible, and also with much cleaner images. I mean, just look at this one. It's sharp all over the frame, and I'm actually really, really impressed by that. That's not something I was expecting to love, because I've always been, I don't want to knock it off the cliff there, I've always been a proponent of pushing that shutter speed, but the IBIS is very, very good in this camera. The eye autofocus is great for portraits. The grip is better, it's more comfortable in the hand, the battery's better, and it's those things that I think, for me, make the upgrade worth it. If you're into video, then yeah, great, like we said. Yeah, for landscape photographers, I definitely think this is probably a worthwhile upgrade, but if you don't own an XT3 already and you're considering it, then definitely go for the XT4. There's also no doubt in my mind that this is the best crop censored camera on the market. I know a lot of you get annoyed even having the discussion about crop sensor, but I love what Fuji have done. I've said it before, the crop sensor affordable camera like this that gives you almost full frame quality, and then if you want to go notch up, you go to the beautiful medium format cameras that I've tried before. Really like the camera, but I want to talk through this picture. That cloud is just incredible. It's amazing. The conditions are just stunning at the moment. I'm going to bracket just to make sure I get it all in. I'm at a shutter speed of 1/100th of a second, F11, 1/60th of a second. I'm getting some of these trees kind of framing those distant fields there down at the bottom. And then we rise up into those dramatic clouds, and that's what this image is all about. Very straightforward, 2-second timer. Here we go, move this one out of the way. Let's have a look at that. Oh, yes. Hello there, and welcome to a day of nature photography. And you join me at a beautiful moment, and I'm trying to capture a couple of amazing little birds that are just flying around me. Their call, as you might be able to hear, is really interesting. I don't actually know what birds they are. I'm not very good with birds, to be honest, but they're kind of circling around me. I must be right in the middle of their territory, and I'm just trying to be as still as possible. It's now just moved over there, so I just need to very slowly spin the camera around as best I can, then just release it a bit. Oh, it's so nice. It's just sitting on these ferns, flying all around. It's moving again, going all around me. Now it's at the top of that tree. Let's see if I can get it up there. I'm just trying to be as still as I possibly can and be as quiet as I possibly can to not scare them. I've been here a while now, and I think they're starting to get comfortable with me. But they're beautiful little birds, and it's just a fantastic moment. It's the middle of August. I've found a spot completely by myself, and it feels very special. I've got the 400mm lens on, as you can see. I have the shutter speed up to about 1/1000th of a second, because these little birds move so fast, so you want to capture that movement with that high shutter speed, or freeze that movement rather with that high shutter speed. This is an f5.6 lens, fixed prime, 400mm. So that means that with the current light, I've had to boost the ISO to 1250, which with a 5D Mark IV is absolutely fine. I have then got it on AI servo mode. That means that when I get it in the focus point, it will just continue to adjust the focus all the time as long as I keep the bird inside that focus point. And then I'm on rapid fire, as you can hear. I'm just gonna have another little look. Oh, it's a lovely little composition now. If I can just get it, I can't get it to focus because it's just on the tiniest twig and it's probably a little bit far away. It's still there. Come on, camera, focus. Can you hear that? I just can't get it to focus. I could do it manually, but I'm holding this camera, so it's actually quite difficult. Right, here we go. It's now in position. So I've just moved along a bit because I've got a really nice composition on a fern that it's been jumping onto. So I'm just kind of in position. I'm just going to get set up on that fern. And the reason I like it is because if it sits on that fern, I've got a beautiful blown out background with that bright green of that fern as its little perch. But then in the background, I've got this beautiful moorland and there is some heather just starting to flower. And it's giving a very subtle purpley pink colour to the background. So I think it's going to be a really nice image. He's moved off again. That's not quite where I want him. I just want him here. I'm starting to get eaten as well. He's moved now. This is it. This is it. Get focused in. Wait for my moment. Now. Let's have a look. That is so nice. I'm so happy with that. I'll need to crop in a little bit because I'm not quite as close as I'd like to be, but I don't want to cause them any undue stress. Such a beautiful moment. And I've come away, or I've captured something I think I'm going to be really happy with. That pink behind just looks so nice. And dare I say it, a little bit unique. Yes. Set up for a shot in advance. I apologise for the wind noise if it's bothering you. These microphones are pretty good these days. I've just got to try not to shout too much because it still picks up my voice. But as you can see behind me, I've got this absolutely stunning view. The conditions are currently quite interesting because we've got a few wispy bits of high altitude cloud which could really make this scene pop. It is forecast to get a bit cloudier. As it is at the moment though, I'm not that interested in that view. If I get some high clouds, I will be when sunset comes and I get some colour. At the moment though, I'm finding it much more interesting over my shoulder this way as we turn into the wind, because we also have forecast of low cloud coming in over those western Lake District mountains later on, or in about an hour or so. But it's starting to happen now, and that to me is a much more interesting scene. So I'll turn back out to the wind towards the camera, and I have the 70-200 lens on because the foreground is fairly interesting. We've got a little bit of flowering heather still left, but that makes the mountains quite small, and the clouds, as it's rolling over those mountains towards me, I've got the different bits of light as the sun is coming in from the west. It's low down now, and those clouds are just warming up all the time. I've got different tones on the side of the mountains, the different layers as we go through the valley, and it just looks really quite incredible. So I'm in about 100mm. I'm playing around a little bit with the focal length, a couple a little bit further out, a couple a bit further in. I just want to get it right. There are two peaks which are both have little caps
of cloud on top of them rolling over towards me, and I'm kind of making them the center of this image. I'm just going to look through the viewfinder because it is very bright to see the back of the screen, but I mean, it's just lovely layers of different coloured light as we're going through. I've got some warmer golden light on the mountains closer to me, then it kind of goes into this bluish, misty, hazy colour in the middle, then we go up into those brighter highlights in the sky with the blues and some starting to get some yellow light on those clouds. It's actually a really interesting layered image, and like I say, much more interesting, I think, than what's going on behind me. I have focused in on one of the peaks closer to me. I'm at f11, which will be fine. I'm at ISO 200 because I just want to bump up the shutter speed with this long lens on to freeze any movement that it's still going to get on this ball head, tripod head. So I'm currently at 1/320th of a second. Oh, it's windy. Now, and I think that's going to work. It's making my eyes water. Right, let's look through, focus in one last time. Just lock that off, yes. 2-second timer, ready to shoot. There we go. I've got the lens hood on, sun's coming over from the side there, so that's keeping any flare out of the image. Let's have a look at that. Zoom in, lovely. I've got good exposure across that image. I'll still probably use a gradient filter in post to bring the sky down just a little bit. Lovely layers. The sort of Lake District mountainous image that I'm really loving at the moment. And it's full of drama. And the haze is just coming in all the time, which is, as the sun gets a little bit lower, should warm up the colours as well. But yeah, as a first shot of this 24-hour trip in the Lake District, I am really rather pleased with that. And as the wind starts to die down, just for a minute, I'm finding that peace that I was looking for. Right, we're coming towards the end of the day now, and I've decided to stay in this spot because the clouds over here have just developed so nicely. It's so beautiful, and the sea has gone this really beautiful blue colour. It was like that when I first got here, but then it kind of greyed out a little bit. Maybe because it's calmed down a bit, but it's just this fantastic blue. I hope you can see that. I'm hoping that I'll get a bit of light on these rocks as the sun is just going to dip under that last bit of cloud. I can see a little bit on the camera, so hopefully that will relay to the shot. But I've got the tripod up as high as it'll go now because I want a slightly higher composition. I'm just working these rocks here in this kind of S shape round that distance. I've got lovely light now. Let's just shoot that and get out of the way because I don't want my shadow in it. It's just working that S curve up to the distant rocks there, and it's just looking fantastic. I've gone about 24 millimeters wide. It's looking good. And there's rocks down in the foreground, right into the distance. Beautiful blue water. And then those fantastic clouds in the distance as well. I'm then bracketing the shots to make sure I get everything in focus. And I'm using a 6-stop filter. The camera can see through the filter. I think the longest exposure is about 15 seconds. The shortest one, about 2 seconds. But ISO 100, f11. And yeah, I'm excited to see how this turns out. The clouds are just developing into something really beautiful, and that warm golden light is going to dip behind the headland in a minute there, and that will be the end of it. Right, I'm excited about seeing this now. Let's have... it's so good. The colours are beautiful. Got the rocks winding their way through. The sky looks great. Everything looks great. What a fantastic way to finish this day, just as the sun dips behind the headland there. I can't wait to show you that picture. But what a fantastic day. I really hope you've enjoyed this in a series of images that may not be that popular, but it really doesn't matter. I think that last one will be, but just shoot what you love to shoot. Create what you want to create. And it's by doing that, finding it in yourself, that you will be able to produce something original and unique and that means something to you, rather than just going along with what everyone else is doing. And it's by being yourself,
that you will get noticed and people will start to pay attention to your work and maybe what you have to say as well. Well, I thought it was over, but it's not over. The sky up there is now just so beautifully pink. I've literally run up that hill. The lungs are burning. But let's get that now. I'm focused in, composing on that little outcrop of land there. Beautiful blue sea, beautiful pink sky, and a little bit of warmth coming from over there, just warming up those rocks a touch. It's just fantastic. But what a day. I just want to have a quick look at that. It's so nice, it's so nice. Just look at it. Just fantastic. I'm absolutely buzzing. What a fantastic day of landscape photography. Yes.
When I was young, I used to lie awake at night, staring out of the window, looking up to the hills and imagining all the possibilities and opportunities that life might bring me. The hills and the mountains became intertwined with my life, spending days on long bike rides with my dad and building incredible dens with my friends that you could literally walk over and not notice it was there. This connection to nature sparked my love of photography, and since then I've always heard it. The mountains are calling. I moved to London, joined the police, and experienced every corner of life, from the most sad and tragic to moments of high elation, both showing the very best that people had to offer. But my heart always yearned for the mountains, so eventually I heeded their call and returned, and over the last 6 years have been lucky enough to explore them, photograph them, and share those moments with you. Then 2020 hit. It hit hard and suddenly, and has tested and pushed even the very best of us to the absolute limit. But hopefully, through this, we'll find a new sense of perspective and an understanding of what really matters as we become stronger or simply find a way to cope. But in the hardship, we find that some things will never change, and for me, I can still hear it. The mountains are calling.
Hello there, and welcome to a very, very beautiful winter wonderland here in the mountains. An absolutely stunning morning. This is everything I was talking about just then. It feels remote, it feels cold, I'm all alone, and it's just giving me that refreshed sense of perspective as I feel small in the world, but in a way that makes me feel better and more significant perhaps. And the conditions are just utterly fantastic, and I'm very excited about the day to come. So I've got a bit of a plan today because the conditions are going to be challenging. I've got a few things that are not in my favour as well, but I've come here wanting to get 2 shots, although I will be happy with just one because I want to make a print today. I want to make a piece of artwork to just round off this whole story, and I think, well, at the moment I've definitely got the conditions for that. But one of the shots I had planned for the end of the day was sort of behind us there, where I've been to before. I've shot there a couple of times before, and it's a beautiful scene. It's a beautiful composition, but those trees just here, as you can see there, I needed those flecked with snow, that beautiful winter scene, and I just don't have it. So it's possible that that shot is not going to happen. Part of the reason that is the case, though, is because of the snow base. It's literally come to about 50 metres above the reservoir level here, so I need to get above that, and that, thankfully, is where my main shot, the shot I really want to have work in the winter. I've shot it at other times of the year, but I want that wintry shot, and that shot is up there. It's so nice here, it's so calm, but the weather could be closing in. I reckon, according to the forecast, I have about 3 hours worth of good weather before potential blizzard conditions come and hit me. So let's get going. It's going to be exciting. Oh, it's just so nice to see some snow as well. Didn't have any significant snow last year, or last winter at least, and this year, right at the start of, well, we're not even in the winter yet officially, we've already got a really nice covering of snow, especially as we get a bit higher. I've got a little bit higher now, and you can see just over here these beautiful waterfalls. The sound is just complementing this scene so well. I don't think there's a photograph there, but they do look good. But as you might be able to see, it's started to snow now. And just behind me there, I think it looks absolutely magnificent. The snow could work for me, it could work against me. One thing I'm slightly concerned about is that if it turns to rain, then things could get a bit trickier, because if I get wet, potentially I could get really cold really quickly. But if it stays as snow, I think I'll be all right. I'm well prepared for the snow, so I should be okay. But it's kind of adding to the exciting feel of this adventure. I'm going to persevere, keep on going. Whoa. It's getting deeper as I get higher as well. But it's a lot of fun. So I've arrived now in what is just an utterly stunning amphitheatre. It's snowing pretty heavily now, and when I felt the mountains calling, this is exactly what I thought it had to offer. But all is not as straightforward as you might think, though, in beautiful conditions like this, because it's not actually that straightforward in getting a composition, because what the snow does is simplify your scene. So where tones and textures normally exist, they are removed by the snow, which is essentially just white. So that on its own is not going to make a great image. It looks great to the eye, but it's not going to be straightforward. What I would like is to capture this whole scene. And I might do a panoramic in a little while when I get a bit further around. But what I'm going to focus on at the moment is getting the 70-200 lens on, which I've already done. As you can see, I'm just going to try and not put the lens into the snow. And I'm pointing up at this mountain because I can still see it just at the top there. There's beautiful textures in there. I know I said it removes the texture, but that rock now shows through the bits of snow. You get this lovely contrast of black and white, and it is actually going to be a very much monochrome image, even though I'm going to leave the colour on the photo. I then have this thin layer of mist or cloud underneath that cliff face. So what that's doing is just creating this really interesting framed, textured image that I think is going to be actually quite interesting. It's going to be sort of have a fine art feel to it, but I think it's going to be interesting. So I'm going to try a couple of things. I'm at f8 because I think that's going to get some nice sharpness out of this lens. And I'm first going to do it by upping the ISO to about 400, then bringing the shutter speed right up. I'm now at 1/640th of a second. I'm composed in. I'm just trying to use the shape of the top of the mountain, which is dipping in and out of the snow and the cloud, to form the top of the image, and then all that texture in there. But the point of having that fast shutter speed is that I think it's going to hopefully freeze a bit of this snow, so that could look quite interesting. So I'm on a 2-second timer, ISO, what am I on? ISO 400, f8. Let's get focused in, take the shot. Looks good. I can't see the snow on the back of the screen, but if it's there, I will have captured it. Now let's roll the ISO back to 100 and put the shutter speed down to, what, 1/100th of a second. Fire off again. So this time, it's a longer exposure. I don't think any of the snow will be captured. Let's have a look at that. It's so dramatic. That is so dramatic. It's exactly what I want. It's just this, it's almost like the cliff face is poking out the centre of the frame, and it's just got a really ethereal, lovely feel to it. It's really hard going now. This snow is so deep. You know, there's the snow. There's my knee. See the little thing on my crampons there as well. I need to get down to there to then go up there, and I can't see the path at all. I don't know how far to go. I can literally see where I want to be. Probably a quarter of a mile away. It's just whether I'm going to be able to get there. Because it's so hard going. It's a bit dodgy because I can't see the path. Let's keep going. The weather has truly moved in now. Ow! And that hurt. And it's not snowing, it's kind of sleeting and hailing, and the wind has got right up and it's battering my face. The mountains were calling yesterday and earlier this morning, but I think they're now telling me I've outstayed my welcome. So what I want to do is get this shot though, and just look at it. It's just probably going to be one of the moodiest shots I have ever taken. And if I'm shouting, I apologise. There we go. Let's turn back around this way, come to the camera. Right, I'm composed. Got this little bit of rock here, those two lakes, and then the moody mountains in the distance. I've got that base of that snow as well, which is adding a nice contrast to the image. I've got that water that looks almost black. The snow and the detail of the rocks coming out of it is very monochrome, there's not much colour, but like I say, it's going to be one of the most dramatic images I've ever taken. I am set at f8. I'm focusing just down on the shoreline. 1/100th of a second, ISO 100, and then I need my cloth. I'm focused, I'm in manual focus, so I can just do that. Get the 2-second timer going and then pull away. And yes, I mean, let me bring that up. That just looks absolutely phenomenal. It's a dark sky, a dark looming sky in the distance. The two lakes, the snow, the black of the rock, the darkness of the water. So much drama in that. And that's exactly what I had in my mind. I will show you that image in a minute. But I've now got to get down off this mountain. Oh, God, the wind is battering me. The image is in the can. I feel good about it. I'm glad I just focused on this one image, because I'd waited too much longer, photograph things coming up. I think the weather would have defeated me today. So I'm gonna pack away. Oh my goodness. I've got to go.